Hi, everyone. Biggest film critic here, Jeffrey K. Howard, and welcome to my Jaws 50th anniversary special. As a film critic for over 30 years, the question I get most is, what's your favorite movie of all time? And over again, it's Jaws. And now celebrating its 50th anniversary, I have spent much of 2025 compiling interviews with cast members, authors, and just putting together this special of my favorite movie of all time. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we go behind the scenes for the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the world premiere of National Geographic and Amblin Television's new documentary, Jaws at 50, which I am particularly proud to introduce to all of you tonight. I mean, where else could we possibly premiere this film? Jaws is not a Hollywood movie. Jaws is a Martha's Vineyard movie. Because the vineyard is where this all began in May 1974. When we all arrived on location, your homes, but our location, we were scheduled to leave by the end of June. And as it has been well documented, we did not wrap on Martha's Vineyard until the end of September. In most circumstances, summer in the vineyard is a dream. But when you are over budget and over schedule, and when I am over my head, that summer of 1974 was a bad dream before it ever became the dream of a lifetime. And this documentary, directed by Laurent Bouzereau, is the most honest telling of the making of Jaws, starting with how excited I was to be chosen in the first place to get to direct a film based on Peter Benchley's blockbuster book. But it also details how young and unprepared all of us were for the challenges of shooting in the Atlantic Ocean with a mechanical shark that was more temperamental than any movie star I have ever worked with since. And how, in the wake of running over schedule and budget, I truly believed that Jaws would be the last movie I would ever be given to direct. Now, thankfully, a life preserver was thrown to me, and that preserver was thrown to me by audiences all over the world, beginning right here with the very first audience who saw Jaws in Martha's Vineyard. 50 years after its initial release, making Jaws remains a seminal experience for every single one of us, and 5 decades has done nothing to dim the memories of what remains one of the most overwhelming, exciting, terrifying, and rewarding experiences of my entire career. I was so lucky that so many of the parts, the roles in the film, were played by islanders, were played by locals who gave Jaws an authenticity that remains one of my favorite things about the entire film. And the support we received from Edgartown, Chilmark, West Tisbury, Oak Bluffs, Menemsha, Vineyard Haven, Chappie. The only reason we were able to even finish the film is because of all of the support you gave us all across the island, as well as 12 miles out past the Cape Pogue Lighthouse. Look, a lot has happened in the 50 years since the initial release of Jaws, but some things will always be true, including the fact that Jaws and the Vineyard are forever linked in the best possible way. If someone had told me 50 years ago that we would be celebrating this anniversary, I would have thought they were as crazy as the making of Jaws was making me. But here we are, half a century later, and I want to thank the great team at Nat Geo for making this documentary possible. And I want to thank all of you who have kept the Jaws legacy alive across these 5 decades. Thank all of you. Thank you so much for the memories, the good ones, the bad ones, and the ones that will last a lifetime. And thank you for being here tonight, too. To me, making Jaws was a life-altering experience.
50 years, we're still talking about Jaws.
It was the first blockbuster.
It's this mystical connection between hero and monster.
This started me thinking about a career in movies.
Is there anything that you've never said about Jaws?
Let's find out. We were on the real ocean, and we were way out of our element for 5 months. And we all began going off the deep end, literally. The film was 100 days behind schedule, and 80% of the time the shark didn't work.
There was a strong undercurrent that the studio would close us down.
I was terrified I was going to be fired, but I never once felt like I wanted to quit. And when the film wrapped, I had a full-blown panic attack. But the success was fantastic.
It was sort of life-changing.
It's the film I've seen the most.
It wasn't just a movie, it was a pop culture phenomenon like that.
It supercharged the language of cinema.
There have been movies made since using CG sharks that aren't nearly as good.
The film that I thought would end my career is the film that began it.
Boom, 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 boom.
Viva Las Vegas. Hello.
Hello, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining me today for Jaws 50th anniversary and this incredible documentary. You know, a lot of people call things a love letter, but this is a love letter to every fan, including myself. My dad took me to 3 movies in my life when I was a boy, and when I was 8 years old, I saw Jaws first run. And of course, just watching this documentary, it affected me like everybody else. I've never forgotten it. It's become my favorite film my entire life. And this is just an amazing dream project for you, isn't it?
It is. And just like you, I saw Jaws when it came out, and it changed my life. I've wanted to be in the film business, a filmmaker, meet Steven Spielberg, John Williams, since I first saw Jaws 50 years ago. So having had the privilege of working with Steven for 30 years or over 30 years, and to, about a year and a half ago, deciding to do this film was a big challenge because so much has been said and done about Jaws. And I was like, what is there to say? And I really zeroed in on the human experience, the point of view of people like Steven himself, to talk about what the experience was like then and what is it now. 50 years is a big benchmark for anyone, including myself. It happened a few years ago already. And anything that, that reaches 50 is worth celebrating. But you ask questions, you ask, am I still relevant? Am I still connecting with the next generations? And those were questions I was asking of myself when I turned 50, but questions I wanted to ask Jaws specifically about. And that was sort of like my quest, a human experience that was something that nearly destroyed somebody's career, or several careers for that matter. And what does it feel like 50 years later?
Well, what I admire about this documentary, it is the official record, because I'm sure Spielberg has been asked many times over the decades to come on record and tell the same old stories. But this time, with this documentary, with the footage and the interviews, it's like I'm hearing these stories for the first time. So I think that's an incredible accomplishment, that they just have a new life to them.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I'm glad you're saying that, because I was most afraid of Jaws fans like yourself, because I'm like, oh, they're going to be super hard on me and all that. But so far, I have to say, you included, the feedback has been, it feels like we're hearing this for the first time, because I think we were, and I say we because, worked really hard with my producers and my editors, and trying to find a new voice, even if we were talking about a story we'd heard before. And how you do that is really getting a performance when you're doing interviews with someone like Steven, and really pushing them to giving you that performance that's going to make this feel fresh and different. And I think how it feels fresh and different is that we're no longer laughing at the situation or smiling. We are saying, this nearly destroyed me, and I had PTSD, and this was like, something that I had a really hard time sort of digesting, even after the success of the film. So that's kind of a tale for inspiration for anyone who is trying to do anything, and wants to quit, or faces adversity or opposition or challenges. And in today's world where you're so quickly distracted, it's an easy thing to do to quit. So I'm really glad that this film turns into a survival story and hopefully something that can inspire.
Well, there were footage and stories I've never seen or heard before. And with Spielberg at the helm, with his blessing for this documentary, did this give you access to photos and footage of
Oh,
things
yeah.
I've heard in Jaws folklore? There they are in your documentary, front and center. So with his name and power behind this, did that open a lot of doors for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd be lying if I said, this Steven Spielberg is almost saying open sesame, so so I really it's a really strong collaboration with Steven for 30 years on any film that I do, because I really rely on his eyes and his ears and his experience. I remember, I did a documentary on Steve King, and I had like two or three cameras, and I had a camera on the monitor filming and stuff. And when Steven looked at the cut, he said, Laurent, when you got Stephen King, all you need is one angle. And I was like, oh my God, he's so right. And so I learned so much from him. And so, therefore, even when it comes to archival, I was placing a lot of requests each time I was hearing a specific story and got his guidance as to what existed and how it would fit the story. Because, it's one thing to have never before seen footage. It's something else to make it fit into a story. Because you can have the greatest story and have the wrong story. You can have the greatest footage and have no story to tell. And you can have a story, but no footage to show for. So finding that balance is something that's part of documentary filmmaking and is really, really, really hard.
And
And that's why this film was particularly stressful for me because filming all over the world, I mean, literally, I was in Martha's Vineyard, in New York, in LA, in London, uh, um, and trying to get people who are really busy in their professional lives, and trying to get it to Nat Geo on time for this anniversary was I'm telling you, I have PTSD from that.
what I was amazed in this is that Spielberg is just one of the most amazing storytellers, not only visually, but also in interviews. And he's saying these stories like they happened yesterday. His memory is just incredible. But for you as a filmmaker, what was that one story or that one moment for you that was kind of like the aha moment? That's something that stood out among everything.
Well, that's actually two stories. The one actually about him going to the back lot and hiding in the Orca after the film had been a success and sort of crying from the stress of what that production was like. But the one that was very significant to me was when he was making the film and he went to a party on the island and there was a famous actor who I don't know who that was, but it was somebody of was famous, went up to Steven saying, your career is over. Everybody's talking about you in Hollywood. And not only was that super mean, but it was like really saying, I'm an actor. I'm talking to a director who potentially could hire me, but you are so over that I don't care that I hurt your feelings or I'm destroying your your dream here. And I
Was
thought
he
to me,
wrong?
I thought uh, um, really that's a reflection of the strength that one has to have with your conviction, in Hollywood, which cannot wait to build you up and then cannot wait to tear you down. And that's very much of a thing, that movies are made of. You think about John Crawford, or the whole history of cinema is loaded with stories of that nature. But ultimately, it's the conviction of your own your own career, that you're the master of it, and that's what Steven has done. And Jaws ended up being a rite of passage, not only for him, but I think for a lot of the people who were involved with the movie, who were at the beginning of their careers. And because, if the film had not been successful, that meant the production designer, would not be able to say, oh, I worked on Jaws really in the same way, because they would say, oh yeah, the film with the shark that looks like crap, or so it was a life-changing experience for a lot of people, and
Yes.
and um, and and therefore, as I said, a rite of passage.
Well, Laurent, thank you so much. Your passion is insatiable. You are the right person to bring the definitive documentary about Jaws, and I thank you, and all the fans thank you. And let's talk again soon, my friend. Thank you so much for everything.
You're very, very kind. I appreciate it. Take care.
Hi, Wendy, Jeff in Las Vegas. Good afternoon.
Hello, Jeff. Glad to be here.
I am such a thrill to honor and an honor to meet you. I'm a huge Jaws fan.
Good.
I saw Jaws first run when I was 8 years old, and
Uh,
my dad took it
that
to
was
me.
too
So
young. Your dad should
I
not have
know.
taken you.
When I interviewed Steven Spielberg for the first time, and I told him that was my favorite movie, he says, "How old were you?" I said, 8 years old. He goes, "That's a good age."
Oh, that's too young. Okay.
No, I did go to Martha's Vineyard for the 30th anniversary of Jaws, and I had the
Uh,
pleasure of meeting Peter, and he
oh,
signed
good.
me. So that's one of my most treasured possessions. And Jaws turning 50, its influence in art and pop culture is stronger than ever. Did Peter really understand the cultural phenomenon that he created?
Uh, you know, I think he did because he lived long enough to see it and to see the cultural phenomenon, and also to see the positive effect of Jaws in boosting shark science and getting people really interested in these awesome creatures.
Yeah, because he spent most of his life after the popularity of the film doing conservation and educating the public that sharks weren't monsters; they were essential to the ecosystem and our existence.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We worked on that together, and he did lots of articles for the National Geographic. And I'm so thrilled that Nat Geo has done this documentary, which talks about the magic of the movie and how brilliant Spielberg was, but also talks about the powerful impact of Jaws and then our conservation work. So I'm very honored and blessed to be part of this.
Well, can you tell us a little about his cameo as a TV reporter in the movie? Did he ever talk to you about, if he was nervous to be in front of the camera, or how that scene came about?
Uh, I think he was thrilled, honestly. He really enjoyed it. Because he liked that Hitchcockian cameo thing. If you've written a movie or a book, it's sort of fun to be in it. So he had a good time with that. And I think it's very difficult to do, and I was on the beach. I really had never seen myself on the beach until a fan sent me a photo that he had taken. Yeah,
There you were.
yeah.
Now it's funny. I was 8 years old when I saw the movie, and of course, like I was terrified. But years later, when I was 11 or 12, I wanted to read the book. I never read the book, and
Um,
I never forget that first line. The great fish swam through. I mean, it's almost like one of the most iconic opening lines in any kind of literature.
well, thank you for that, for saying that, because that first chapter, nobody ever changed a word, and Peter was very pleased with that first chapter. And he wrote the book about a real shark, not a 25-foot monster, about a 15-foot shark that is born and that eats and propagates and dies. And so, it was a more realistic approach to the shark and to the town and what it did. So thank you. I'm glad you like that first
And do
chapter.
you know exactly where his original manuscript is, where all his notes are? I mean, you're the keeper of the archives, aren't you?
Oh yes. A lot of them are in Boston University.
Okay, and I
Yeah.
understand that coming up with the title Jaws was almost like a last minute thing that he went over and over to try to figure out what to call this novel.
Oh, Jaws. It could have been a novel about a dentist, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so we had about 50 different titles and they just couldn't figure out what would be one. And there was one that was pretentious like Leviathan Rising and then another scary one, White Death. And then Peter's father, who was really quite funny, said, "I know, I've got the best title. What's that noshing on my leg?" And
Can you see that on the New York Times bestseller
that
list?
noshing on my leg. Yeah. So that was, anyway, they settled on Jaws. And as Peter said, who knows what it means? And nobody ever reads first novels anyway. So, but lucky us, people did. And yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, Wendy. Most people don't read, over the decades, but people go to the movies. So tell me
Yeah.
about being in mixed company when someone says, well, her husband wrote Jaws. Does the room light up and then all of a sudden the crowd comes to you and starts bombarding you with questions? And
Oh gosh. I think only when I give speeches, but I've really spent the last 40 years doing ocean conservation work. So I'm around people who don't bring jaws up very much. It's more let's get to work and let's see what we can do to get more marine protected areas and to stop the shark finning, which is decimating shark populations. So, but it's fun now. We're doing a lot of talk about jaws.
well, Wendy, it's incredible because the success 50 years later of this movie and his book, that's just piggybacks on conservation.
Yeah.
It's a great way to introduce people to that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what I really mainly work on. If I ever bring up Jaws, it's when I'm giving a speech and I'm trying to get people in and get them interested. And then we talk, I do a few Jaws stories and then we talk about conservation. And I hope that people who see this documentary and see the movie again will remember what an awesome, important creature sharks are for the ocean.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much. And Peter, heavenly thank you to him too.
Yeah.
This has been a total thrill and best of luck. And let's talk again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Hey, we have a lot more coming up with the Jaws 50th anniversary special, so don't go away.
You live here? No, Hartford. I go to Trinity. My folks live in Greenwich.
Your folks were born here, right?
Yeah, I'm an Islander. They moved off when my dad retired. You an Islander?
No, New York City. You here for the summer? Come on.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Oh, I love your t-shirt, kid.
Thank you so much. Oh man, Mr. Kramer, this is a thrill. I'm just telling you, thank you so much. I know you're a busy man with the Jaws 50th going on all year and you're in great demand. And just taking a few minutes out to talk to me today just means the world to me. So thank you
Oh,
so
I'm
much.
happy to do it for you.
We actually met 20 years ago at the Jaws Fest in Martha's Vineyard for the 30th.
Oh my God.
And
That's a long time ago.
It was, I didn't go to the 50th this year because I got the most out of the 30th, so I thought I'd let other people, go to
It
make
was
the
so
pilgrimage.
much fun. And you know what? Everybody who came could remember where they were, who they were with, and when they first saw the movie. It's stunning.
Well, I was 8 years old when I saw it first run in 1975. And I wouldn't go in the bathtub or the pool, to tell you the truth.
I get it. People come in with 3 and 4-year-olds. I said, well, they haven't seen it. They go, oh my God, they've seen it. I said, I should call social services on you.
The first time I interviewed Spielberg many years ago, I told him this was my favorite movie of all time. He goes, well, how old were you when you first saw it? I said, 8 years old. He goes, that's a good age.
Yeah, really. Stephen was still Stephen then.
Yes. Well, how are you taking in all this attention? This is the 50th anniversary. You're in great demand. You're doing conventions. You're doing, are you keeping up? I mean, what's it like this year? Because we're winding down.
How blessed was I to be in this? I mean, what sticks quite like this? I mean, to be blessed enough to be in an iconic film that will be seen long after we're gone is stunning to me. I'm lucky, I'm grateful. You know, I used to be friends with George Clooney many years ago, and he was always grateful, and I loved him for that. And it was a great lesson for me. And I've always felt life or opportunities, and some work, some don't, but you keep moving forward. You may take 2 steps back, but you know, you got to keep going forward.
Now, you've probably been asked this a million times, especially this year. What's your favorite story, or what is the most popular story that you have from the set? You know, without sounding corny and saying it for the thousandth time, or maybe
Well,
something
my
that you haven't
favorite,
told.
we're walking home one night from the bar with Murray Hamilton, I am. And he sees this little animal. He goes, here, kitty. And boom, he gets skunked. I mean, full on skunked. We walked back to the hotel. He refused to go to his room. And he ended up sleeping on the couch in the lobby at the Harborview Hotel. By the next morning, it was almost uninhabitable. Literally. It
Oh
was
my
such.
gosh.
Oh, I love Murray. He was a wonderful guy.
Oh my God.
Lovely man.
He's so beloved, you know. Now, did you keep any mementos? Do you have any props? Do you have anything left from the shoot?
No, but guys call me all the time. I know you have your uniform. I don't have my uniform. I don't have any of it. But unfortunately, but this Amity police hat, I went through a stop sign in Sherman Oaks many years ago. Cop pulls me over, goes, you know, you went through the stop sign. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't go over far. He goes, why are you wearing that hat? I said, oh, I played the deputy in Jaws. And he goes, oh, I love that movie. Don't do it again. So I thought, I wear it now like it's going to save my life forever.
So now you know every pretty woman who gets out of a ticket, you know how it feels now.
Without a doubt, a lady asked me the other day, she goes, my God, Jaws is 50 years ago. How old were you? I said, oh, gosh, now I have to be honest about my age. I was 9, I said. She starts laughing, so I knew
Oh.
she didn't believe me.
Well, you're getting all the attention for the 50th, but I'm sure fans have written to you over the years. Do you get letters? Do you get requests?
Oh, I get letters. I get all sorts of stuff. And I try to answer most everything. And it was such an amazing experience. And to think that it could still last. I mean, I can't name another movie that has this kind of iconic following. We used to know an usher at the theaters who'd let us in every night when Ben Gardner's head comes out of the boat. Yes. And you would see popcorn and soda go up in the air. I mean, literally, no exaggeration. It was
to know
unbelievable.
That was added in Verna Field's swimming pool way after.
Yeah.
I mean, just the story behind this movie is just as incredible as the movie itself.
You know what it was? It was a perfect creative storm. None of it really worked. We were 100+ days over. The shark never worked. There was, you'd look at things and it was a disaster. And everything came together. The music, the editing, and Verna was brilliant. She won the Academy Award for that. And she was so kind. They called her the Mother Cutter because she mothered all of us.
She put all that nightmare together, didn't she?
Boy. Big time.
Now, Jeffrey, it has to be for the 50th. The icing on the cake was the 50th Academy Awards Museum. They had the display of all the props, and Steven Spielberg was there. And I haven't been there yet. I'm going in probably the next month or two.
Oh, you will love it. You got to see it. You know, the Martha's Vineyard Museum had a fabulous one, and it was beautiful, but it was the size of a postage stamp compared to the one at the Academy Museum. It is so comprehensive. It is so well curated. It is fabulous. And I saw Stephen there, and he was very sweet and kind and called me Jeffrey because years ago, this is between us. David Kelly who was my producing partner, had found had had won an award at the Writers Guild, and he said, "I'm not going to be here. Would you pick it up?" And Spielberg is presenting, and I think this is going to be great. And in front of 600 people at the Writers Guild, Steven says, "Oh, Jerry, I'm proud of you." And he called me Jerry. What are you going to say? No, 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 it's Jeffrey. You can't do that. So you just eat it. And I have the story to tell you now.
I love it. I love it. And you know what? Even though the 50th is winding down, you're still doing conventions. You got appearances through the rest of the year, don't you?
Well, I don't do many of them, but I do. And they're so much fun. You know, when you see the love of this movie and the love of others like horror movies, you think, oh my God, it's hereditary because it's passed down from grandparents to their kids and the parents turn it on to their kids, this love of these movies. And it is magic. When you hear how some movies have influenced people's lives, I mean, I can't express to you how wonderful that feeling is.
Plus, as a movie fan and a critic for 30 years, I am so happy you got to spread your wings in Jaws 2 as well.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You're the comic relief in both films. And, you know, you need a breather, and just your attitude, your expressions, you know, when we see you pop up on screen, you know, you're just a joy. You really are.
Oh, you're a doll. And, you know, when I finally realized later in life we were starting to have children, and I said, oh, my God, we were the last hired and the first fired, and I was blessedly able to change my life and have a career on the other side of the camera.
Yeah, you were a producer.
You know, I helped.
Yeah.
Oh, I helped develop the X-Files, which I loved when I worked at Fox, and you know, so I am a grateful human being who's led a really interesting life.
Well, you know, Jeffrey, in our final moments here, not only am I a Jaws fan, but I'm a MASH fan. And I watched last night, Movie Night, which is one of the most popular episodes, where you pop in and say, you know, I just got a flat tire. I was wondering if you could give me your favorite memory, because you were on 2 MASH episodes.
Right. And later on in life, I became very friendly with Mike Farrell and Shelley Fabre. And what love. And I just loved it. I was a kid doing the show, and it was the hottest show in TV. I mean, it's not like I had big roles at the moment there, but it was so much fun to do. And just working was so much fun. But, you know, nowadays it's all just much tougher, and AI, oh my gosh, I don't know what that's going to mean for the future, but it's scary.
I always escape to the past. I watch MASH every night. I like to watch.
You watch Happy Days?
Of course I do. When I met Henry Winkler at an award show a few years ago, I literally almost cried because, are you okay? I go, no, I was 10 years old when I watched you. You taught me how to read. You taught me all these things. I mean, you were my life. I had T-shirts that said the Fonz on it, you know?
Oh, yeah, I get it.
And Henry is nothing like the Fonz, but he's one of the most gracious.
No, he's a nice, sweet man.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest.
He's a good man.
Yes. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for talking to me today. I know you're a busy man. You're in great demand. And I've been trying to track you down all year. And
you got me, though. I got your note, and I was happy to help. And I like this. I love that you're doing this. And I love your enthusiasm. You make all of us better here.
Well, I'm shedding nerd tears right now. I'm trying to be not the fanboy out here right now.
Jeffrey, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope we meet again soon.
I hope so. Thank you, sir.
Well, here's an untold Jaws story, I think. When they were projecting the dailies of that scene, which was done, you know, way after the movie was finished, they were called, for the sake of expediency and budget, they used to call them one light dailies. They would take all the film that came in that day, take a kind of an arbitrary light setting to print the film, and they would just run all the film with one light. Later, they would time it and, you know, adjust the light, bring it down, bring it up, accentuate the blues, do the flesh, you know, they would fix it. But in one light, it's essentially set to give you the best resolution for whatever film was shot during the day. And since most of the film was shot during the day, it was a daylight exposure. So here comes that scene, and it's not day for night, or it's not gloomy or dark or blue. It's pretty conventionally visible, and it's a beaver shot. It's clearly a beaver shot. And the camera is like zooming up to her groin. And everybody said, whoa, 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 stop, cut. And, in 1974, that was pretty risque business. So they sent somebody to get the negative, and they sequestered the negative. And, I don't think a piece of film has been re-examined with that intensity. But, so they ran to fix the film, and then they fogged it, and they did everything they could to fix it. But somehow, it's kind of unclear in a factory like Universal and Technicolor, which was the lab, exactly which pieces of negative go where. And there are DVD releases of Jaws in which, although it's muted and dark blue, that you can tell that it's a beaver shot. It wasn't intended to be that way, and I wasn't there when they actually screened it. I was at the studio, and Verna came down and says, "You're not going to believe what we just looked at. We have to go fix. We have to get that piece of film out of there."
Carl, if that's an exclusive Jaws story for me, I think you just made my career. I think that's fantastic.
I was honored to supervise the restoration of one of the original castings out of the molds from the shark from Jaws for the Academy Museum. This casting had been on display at Universal Studios for 20 years as a photo op. In the mid-90s, that replica of Bruce was sent off to a junkyard in Sun Valley. The thing was in terrible, terrible shape. It just sat there in the sun, baking, until eventually the junkyard closed and we acquired the casting with the desire to restore the shark as it was intended to be seen in the movie.
At home, we got a taxidermy man. He's gonna have a heart attack when he sees what I brought him.
Once the restoration began, I had an extensive library of behind-the-scenes photos that I'd collected over the years, as well as consulting with some of the technicians that worked on the movie.
You're rushing into something serious here.
My studio and I stripped off years and years of grime. It was about getting down to the basic shape of the shark, repainting it, patching it. There was a lot to it, and I wanted to make sure that it was perfect.
I want to be sure. You want to be sure. We all want to be sure, okay?
We had to resculpt the gills. I sculpted the interior of the mouth, took castings of the original teeth that I had acquired from Joe Alves and Roy Arbogast, who worked on the movie.
Those proportions are correct.
Love to prove that, wouldn't you? Get your name into the National Geographic.
And then looking at little details that Spielberg had added, like the scars on the front of the shark's face. Those were added at the last minute because Spielberg had wanted it to look like the shark had been in a few tussles throughout its life. So we recreated the shark, and it's now displayed in all its glory as you go up one of the escalators. You're looking right into the mouth of Bruce.
The Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, the world's largest museum dedicated to movie making, is thrilled to announce Jaws, the exhibition, opening September 14th, celebrating the film's 50th anniversary. Step into the world of this Oscar-winning classic from director Steven Spielberg, featuring over 200 original production objects, behind-the-scenes stories, and interactive moments.
Well, everybody, I'm here at the Academy Awards Museum here in California, in Hollywood, and they're doing the 50th anniversary of Jaws exhibition. They have memorabilia, they have incredible props, the life buoy that Chrissy was on at the beginning where she got eaten, to a replica of the orca. They have scripts, they have photographs, they have some of the original costumes. It's now through July, I believe, of 2026. And even behind me there we got Bruce. That was in a junkyard for many, many years. It was restored by Greg Nicotero of Walking Dead fame, one of the most incredible makeup artists in the world. And he took years to painstakingly restore Bruce the shark behind me. That is the only mold from the original shark from the movie that's hanging here in the Academy Museum.
The shark is still working. We'll take you on a journey back to the beginning.
Making Jaws was the toughest filmmaking production experience I've ever encountered.
It's not going to be pleasant.
Nothing's ever come close.
We're all living very frustrated summers. Our fear was that the shark wouldn't work on the screen.
Well, Michael, hello and welcome. It's a big year for us Jaws fans, the 50th anniversary. We go way back, back to the Blu-ray release. I mean, that was one of the most highlights of my career, being at Universal Studios on the back lot, and I'll never forget that. And so let's begin where it all began with you. It's the 50th anniversary celebration of Jaws. What was your first experience, or where did your fandom begin?
So my fandom begins, I was very lucky. My parents were very open to letting me see things. And I loved classic monsters and I loved disaster movies of the 70s. And this movie Jaws came out and I wanted to see it just based on the poster image alone. And because, you see, I didn't know exactly it was a shark or it was some type of dinosaur or something like that. And I remember seeing it and just how it felt to be in the theater. It was probably one of the first times I remember having a full theater experience, as far as like every seat was taken, everybody was responding to it. There were the laughs, there was the screams, all this kind of communal moment that set out in that movie. And then I became Jaws crazy. And I cut out anything I could find in the newspaper and put it on my bedroom wall, any photos, anything like that. And then there was this book called the Jaws Log, and I found it at a grocery store. My mom was shopping, and I took it to her, and she was like, she looked through it. She's like, "Oh, this is kind of an adult book. You're really not going to enjoy this." And I'm like, "Please, please," I had to have it. So she bought it for me, and I sat in the back seat of my car, my parents' car, as they were driving home, and I'm flipping through it. And my favorite scene in the original Jaws is the cage scene underwater. I just, to me, you really get a good sense and scale of that shark. And I was like looking for any photos that I could find, because up until that point, there really weren't a lot of photos that had been released. It wasn't as easy as it is now, where you could just like type in and get, hundreds of great photos. So I was looking, I was trying to draw it from memory, and it didn't look like the poster. So I was always frustrated by that. And then in this book, there were great pictures of it, but there was this picture of it attacking the cage. And I was like, oh, and I just started studying it. And then I realized there were other people around it. And I'm like, what? I don't remember that. And then I looked and I was like, what is that? And I pointed, and my mom was like, oh, that's a film camera. And I don't know why, but in that moment, sitting in the back seat of that car, it dawned on me that people make movies.
You can take that story, but just change the title. I have the exact same story, but for me, it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Because that was the first time that, I was 11. When I saw Jaws originally, my dad took me, I was 8, so I was still like terrified of the pool, so I didn't have that experience with Jaws, but I had it with Close Encounters, because for the first time, I'm like, well, wait a minute, what's a director? What's a producer? And from that point on, I went to film school later on, and now became a critic for 30 years. But that was a movie that set me in motion, was Close Encounters. But over the years, people asked me, as a critic, what's your favorite movie? I had to have an answer. Now, if I gave the real answer, people looked at me crazy, if it's classic film. And so I had to come up with something. But I honestly mean that Jaws is my favorite movie of all time, something you can watch constantly. And I think you were responsible, you and your team, for one of the greatest documentaries ever. And what was incredible about it was that it looked like just a labor of love to all Jaws fans and to yourselves. And the shark is still working, 7 years in the making. Where did you begin? What a daunting task for something like that.
Yeah. And one of my favorite memories also is being interviewed for that documentary on the set at Universal Studios Hollywood, with the shark coming out of the lake attacking the tram. I just remember that so vividly, and looking across at you and just kind of, I think I said at that moment, I'm like, this is insane. This is the best experience. But the documentary really came from, like I said, I was inspired to be a storyteller. So I was an actor, I was a writer, director, photographer.
And I had had a lot of success doing marquee events and for Universal in Florida. And when Jaws Fest was originally going to happen, it wasn't called Jaws Fest to begin with. It was going to be, I believe at that time it was the 30th anniversary. And somehow they got my number, and the Chamber of Commerce called me and they said, "We understand that you do events." And I'm like, "Absolutely." And they just said, "You have a connection with Universal?" I'd be like, "Yes, I do." And they're like, "And we understand you like Jaws." And I'm like, "Boy, howdy, let me." That's an understatement. So the next thing I know, I was on a plane and I was scouting out locations in January up on Martha's Vineyard, and while I was there, I was lucky enough to go up to Martha's Vineyard a few times before the event. And I think it was the third time I had talked to my good friend Eric Hollander, who I'd known since high school. We actually did a uh, parody of Jaws called All That Jaws while we were just out of high school going into college. We both love Jaws. And I said, I'm doing this thing where we're having all the locals, Alex Kentner, Jeff Kramer, or Jeffrey Voorhees and Lee Fierro. I'm interviewing them and putting these events together, and we should document that. And I said, I'll have the Martha's Vineyard Chamber of Commerce have you come up and document it. And while we started interviewing the locals, it was, wow, why don't we really talk about this and the impact of this movie? And then, Eric's partner, James Gillette, came on board, and Jake Gove, who ran JawsMovie.com at that time, which was this amazing website where it was the only place for Jaws fans to go and talk to each other and message boards. We all just kind of came together, and that documentary grew just because we knew we were fans and we were making it for ourselves. We wanted to know however other people felt about that movie, how that movie impacted most everyone. I mean, how it changed the face of Hollywood. And then, also about the people that made it, how it impacted them. And, before we knew it, we were interviewing Roy Scheider, and Roy Scheider decided he was like, he liked us a lot and gave some great feedback and great interview. And he said, let me narrate this for you. Let me come on as an associate producer. And then the floodgates open. And then Ain't It Cool News back in the day covered it, which was at that time the premier website for movie fans. And Eric Vespi helped us out. And the next thing we know, we were in front of Spielberg, who in turn brought us John Williams at the very same interview, which was an insane, amazing experience. But the whole time it was just the four of us paying for it out of our pocket, and creating this thing that we wanted to thank the people that had made Jaws.
I remember specifically when I was a big Laserdisc collector since 1978, and in the end, I had 2 or 3,000 discs in over 25 years, and I couldn't wait to order the box set that they released that had your documentary on it. I didn't watch the movie; I went right to that. The Shark is Still Working, and I'll never forget just watching that and what I love about it is that you still had everyone that was still alive at the time. They keep trying to make current documentaries, but you had everyone that was available, and I think that's what makes it really special, and they all cooperated.
Well, once it escalated with Roy Scheider, and then it escalated with, I remember when we got the call that Spielberg had agreed, because up until that point, we had been told by everybody, Steven is not going to talk about this movie. And I remember saying to Kristen Stark, who was his assistant at the time, like, we don't want him to relive Jaws. I just want to talk about how this one film, you can trace this back to filmmakers, shark researchers, fans, writers, how it's inspired so many people and the impact, and get his perspective on how that film, does he know how it impacted everyone? And then we got a call saying he'll meet with you. And we went to the Fox lot, and the man walked in, and it was great. He sat down, we started to get ready to interview him, and he was like, "Oh, this is great. Who else have you gotten?" And we said, "Well, Roy." And he's like, "How's Roy?" And he said, "Well, you got to get John." And we were like, "We've been trying to connect with John Williams through his agency and everything, and it's been very difficult." And he looked at us and he goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Kristen, go downstairs and get John." And literally the room stopped, time stopped. And we're like, "Wait, what did he just say?" Next thing I know, John Williams, the world's greatest living composer, walks into the room, and Spielberg says, I promised you guys I would give you your time. He's like, I'm really hungry and I didn't get to get lunch. My mother's restaurant is right down the street. John, give them 45 minutes and then I'll come back. John sat down, Stephen left, we switched gears, interviewed John Williams, then Stephen came back and we had another 2 hours with him. And then it was just like, okay, now this has become as legitimate as it's possibly going to become. And then we just made sure like whoever we could get connected to the film, we wanted them to have a voice, whether it was Jonathan Filley, who really had become this great producer in New York. I mean, his latest success was Elementary. He's a producer there. We interviewed him. And then also the people that were connected, the fans, the directors, Bryan Singer, Robert Rodriguez, M. Night Shyamalan, all these people started to come out of the woodwork because, I remember when it said on Ain't It Cool that these boys nailed the great white shark. They got Steven Spielberg to collaborate.
I can't tell you how excited I am just to talk about this 50-year-old movie with you.
Yeah.
It's like we just watched it for the first time, yesterday.
Well, I saw it in 3D and in IMAX again, and I'm like, first off, I saw it was released, I think a year ago or a couple years ago in 3D, and I saw it and it was amazing. So I was like, I have to see it again in 3D because it's just a perfect film made even better. But then I saw it in IMAX and I'm like, I saw things, little minute things that I'd never seen before.
I agree.
Also, one of the things that it pulls out is, the film was never shot to be that high resolution. So when Brody is going through the book, looking at all the shark facts and figures, if you go back on your Blu-ray and everything, it's cut out like pieces that I think valves are, put in to make look. I need a picture here. I need a picture here. It's very fun.
Love it. Yeah, and not only that, during COVID, I live about a half a mile from our drive-in here. We got 5 screens, still the original drive-in, and they play Jaws. So I remember going with my friends and in the car watching Jaws at the drive-in. It was such a great experience too.
It's fantastic. The only better way is to watch it on a lake or on the ocean.
Yes, which I haven't done. I'm still not brave enough yet. So
yeah, it's pretty rough. Yeah.
Well, Michael, congratulations on The Shark Is Still Working, all your dedication for Jaws and just in cinema in general. And I'm so happy to include you on the 50th celebration and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
There's some great new books out for Jaws' 50th anniversary. Stay tuned as we go behind the scenes. First of all, thank you for the book. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And it was well worth the wait. I know we've been talking for months and waiting. This thing is just full of behind the scenes and everything, but in Spielberg's own words. So it's just a great angle for this movie. But where did your passion begin? I mean, this is not someone who was just casually a fan. I mean, you must have. Tell me about where it all began.
Well, thank you for asking. And again, I appreciate you having me and taking the time to talk to me. So I'm like you. I'm a product of my environment and my generation. I'm 55, so I'm a little bit younger than you, I would assume, if I'm doing the math right. I was infatuated with the movie even as a 5-year-old. I look at my grandson now, who's 5 years old, and he seems like a toddler to me. So I don't know how I had my act together at 5, but I was infatuated with the movie. I didn't see it. Well, let me take that back. I saw the movie in the drive-in theater, at the drive-in, with my twin brother, my older sister, my mom. My dad didn't go. And I don't remember anything. I think I fell asleep probably before the movie started. I was a little kid. But it was in 1979 on ABC when it first premiered that I saw the movie in its entirety. And I became even more infatuated with it than what I was as a little kid in 75. And all my friends started slowly but surely getting into Star Wars around 77. And I just never left the shark movie. Even though I didn't really see the movie in its entirety until 79, I had enough to know, to develop an infatuation with it. So.
Well, that's where, I was one of those kids that went Star Wars crazy. So I quickly forgot Jaws. But
Yeah.
like you in 1979, so what was it, September? I have it here, November 4th, 1979.
Yeah.
We had one of the first VHS machines in Las Vegas. It was from RCA Selectavision, the ones that are like this big, like the size of a,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
huge battery. And I'll
Yeah.
never forget that my brother, who was 10 years older than me, we recorded Jaws that night. And so that's when I got reintroduced to it again. And for decades after that, I thought I was losing my mind because the tape, over the years it got destroyed or lost or whatever. But there were scenes in that movie that were not in any special edition, there were all these scenes that were added back for television. There's a scene where Brody and Hooper go down to cut the shark open. I remember that. But it's still not around. It's not put anywhere else. So I'm dying. I wish to get a copy of that TV version, but I haven't seen that version in 30 or 40 years.
So you're telling me that there was an extended scene of Brody and Hooper going to do the autopsy?
Right. So the movie, the cut
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Right. Well, it's in that TV version. I'll never forget that because I watched that thing over, having a VHS player. We watched it constantly. But the movie, it cuts to them, no pun intended, where they're cutting the shark open. There's a whole sequence where they're walking down and talking and stopping and I've had other Jaws enthusiasts confirm that for me because I think what's that, the Mandela effect? Was I in another dimension? Did that really happen? Well, what's great about putting this book together is that the Jaws log, and on Martha's Vineyard, those were the Bibles for decades.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad that people are coming out with their own versions, just some new perspectives. So putting this book together, what makes this unique, this is all in Spielberg's own words.
That's
when
correct.
I got this book, I thought it was just going to be a bunch of quotes, but I love how you wrap around his quotes, all the stories from the cast, from every little detail. It's like, this is a great new Bible.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. To be honest with you, I write how I want to read. I'm not a fan of a lot of movie directors today. There's a lot of pretense out there in Hollywood, and I say that respectfully because I suspect you're in the industry in some way, shape, or form. But Spielberg's always been a gentleman. He's always been a class act. I did not meet Spielberg. This book came as a result of years of research. I know you've had the privilege of meeting him, and so I'll be forever envious of you. But I've always enjoyed him as a man, as a human being. He seems to be a man of character. So over the years, and by the way, like you, I came of age with his movies. Jaws was the first, and then there was Close Encounters, and then there was Raiders and so forth, and there was a few other movies thrown in. But I cut my teeth as an adolescent with the rise of Steven Spielberg, and he's always maintained his composure. So that infatuation with Jaws, first and foremost, my respect for the man who helmed the film, is what drove me to write the book at the 50th anniversary. I will be honest with you, it wasn't my intention to write the book. I only write when I have a passion. And as the 50th anniversary came, all of the nostalgia, all of my love for the film, all of my infatuation over the years in collecting memorabilia from the film all came to a head. And I said, I want to write this book. If for no other reason, I want to write it for me. And I just want it in Spielberg's words. And what I'll do to complement his words, I'll provide some backstory. I'll write some essays. And I wanted him to do most of the talking, but I wanted to certainly frame it in a dramatic way for the reader. But Jeffrey, thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me a platform. Thank you for being such a great ambassador for the film as well.
My pleasure. And let's talk again soon.
All right. God bless.
Thanks. Thank you for joining me for my Jaws 50th anniversary special. For more reviews and interviews, just surf on over to my website at vegasfilmcritic.com. I'm Jeffrey K. Howard. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.